Miss
Kamala
Kamala Vera. I'm very surprised. You are always talking about self-love, but for me, self-love is an evidence. How can you live if you don't love yourself? That's the question, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's very common to live and survive and be doing daily actions and not to love yourself fully. You know, like we are so used to, like I remember as a child, I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 since I was, let's say, 5 years old.
Yeah.
And it was something that I could not face to say no to my mother. So many times I was forced to do things. So I noticed in myself, when I was honest with myself, I did have a lot of hate patterns, like hating myself, like forcing myself to study. And then when I was 18, my heart was aching. And finding myself years ago, finding honesty check with myself, and then discovering and deciding to do something about that, to love myself even more.
But I don't understand why you were hating yourself.
Yeah, I think this is something that we are not fully ready to accept. By the way you are talking to me, I'm realizing that perhaps the self-hate concept we are not fully ready to embrace and accept. But this is like, if we accept this problem in us, that we sometimes beat ourselves up. You know, how many times we are looking for something and there is a voice of our parents telling us, oh, you should do this, you are stupid. We have that from our parenting, unfortunately. Everyone has some sort of self-hating spectrum.
Okay, so you said this. Now let's try to see what kind of strategy you can put in place to self-love.
Yes, and so that's what I started to do. I was following Till's teaching, who is a shadow worker, one of the teachers, and I realized the massive improvement in my life on abundant scale, like feeling abundant, not just financially. Finances is a big topic for me after my crash in finances, but finding I'm celebrating the abundance I'm creating by loving myself. Last over 3 years.
So, but what do you do?
So my rituals, some of my rituals include one of the fundamentals ritual is I ask myself in each moment during the day, few times, what would someone who loves themselves do? So, you know, I have this energy to create something, or feeling low in energy, or feeling like, I don't know, like what would be most self-loving in a moment. So I ask myself, what would someone who loves themselves do? And that really helps me, and I wait for the answer. It's a skill, it's an art. For me, I've discovered it's an art to wait for the answer. And so what the result is that I fill up my cup many times, or most of the time. And so even if I end up in some half-toxic relationships, people who are all over the place, not fully centered, I am like a water all of a sudden. I find myself flowing and filling my own cup. And then I can also use other skills at the same time, centering, grounding, and creating conscious relating, or anything, or even step out of the conversation, or being more fluid in whatever situation I find myself. Even creation. I mean, being in this space of nothing, like what shall I create next? You create from this inspiration, as I said.
For instance, I noticed many times when I ask you some information, you don't want to answer, and you say, oh, I will not answer that, or I will answer later. Is it a kind of way to self-love?
It's been with me, this topic. This is something perhaps similar or different, because it's been with me personally for many years, because I'm almost like, let's say, autistic. I'm very sensitive to why people ask me this question. I'm very sensitive to see the behind the meaning and their energy. So this is something I would say similar, but also different. It's about setting my own boundary with people, and want to check with them where they are, like energetically, to connect on a deeper level, or check why they're feeling worried all of a sudden, or if they want to gossip or something, that I will gossip later. I'm not available for gossip at the moment. So that's my setting of a boundary. And I think the self-love tool that I mentioned gives me foundation to expand in so many ways to love myself, like setting a boundary and so on. There are so many things. There are so many ways how to love yourself.
So, for instance, you are on social media and you see that many people are talking about you like a cheater. What do you say? What do you do?
I think that's just an example that doesn't relate to me, but let's say it would. But for me, it's about being centered. And there is this distinction called gremlin. Everyone has their irresponsible part.
Yeah.
And I have my own gremlin, and people mirror me. And when they have the irresponsible part that wants to gossip and create victim stories, drama, it's, you know, like I am one with people and I'm separate at the same time. So I let them do their irresponsible part. And if it bothers me, I could set a boundary or learn from that where I am being irresponsible. So I can learn from that they're mirroring the irresponsible part in me, that I need to put my gremlin on the leash, perhaps, you know, because I have a different type of gremlin, which is maybe not so loud, but also try to sabotage me, and it's also not healthy. So.
Okay, a last question, Professor. Is it easy to say, I don't care? Is it easy?
Is it easy? Why do you say is it easy?
Is it easy to don't give a shit about what people think about you, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy it's individual. It's a very individual experience. Some people have.
But do you have a technique to let it go, to let go?
Yeah, well, I think as if it's individual, of course. If it bothers you, it's something that you could embrace in yourself.